Afternoon to present our paper, SHEMZA.DIGITAL. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Hopefully you can all see that fine. So for those of you that don't already know me, I'm Aphra SHEMZA. I am a multimedia artist and I work predominantly with light, abstraction and interactivity. I have a keen interest in modernism, my Islamic cultural heritage, creating art for all and advocating for a more sustainable practice are all central themes within my work. I'm now going to show you a short video and then about the SHEMZA.DIGITAL project, and then Stuart and I will go into it in a little more detail.
My name is Aphra SHEMZA. I'm a multimedia artist who works with light, abstraction and interactivity.
My name is Stuart Batchelor and I'm an interactive digital artist who works the intersection of traditional painting and software art.
My grandfather was the well-known painter Batchelor SHEMZA. He came over to London in the 50s from Pakistan and studied at the Slade School of Fine Art. In 1962, my grandfather created a painting called 1 to 9 and 1 to 7. On it, inscribed in Urdu, was the quote, "One circle, one square, one problem, one life is not enough to solve it." In SHEMZA.DIGITAL, the artist Stuart Batchelor and myself are continuing the legacy of my grandfather.
Inspired by his writings and aesthetics, we are reimagining them through creative technology.
It's about making art accessible to everybody.
Collaboration is a key part of software art. It can enable anyone to become an artist. We want you to get involved. This piece is about your contribution. We can't wait to see what you'll create.
My name.
Sorry about that, just trying to play it twice. Thank you. So that's our little introduction video. So I just want to give you a bit of a context into this project. So in the last 10 years, there's been a rethinking of migrant artists within British art history. So artists who came over to the UK in the 50s and 60s, such as artists like Frank Bowling, Donald Locke, David Madala, Ahmed Pervez, and many more, are now being given the recognition that they so surely deserve. We're finding ourselves in a period of reflection where the old colonial attitudes that once dominated London's and the UK's art world for many years are being challenged, and British art history is being rethought. And this is reflected in key exhibitions that have been held at major institutions in the last few years, such as Migrations, Journeys into British Art by Tate in 2012, Frank Bowling, also at Tate in 2019, and the radical post-war exhibition, Art Between the Pacific and the Atlantic, which was held at Haus der Kunst in not in 1945, sorry, in 2016 to 2017. The latter was curated by the amazing curator Okri and Wezo, and it sought to reframe the origins of the post-war global order. And this was the first time that migrant artists were exhibited alongside some much more familiar and established names in this groundbreaking show. So with SHEMZA.DIGITAL, we wanted to create a public that could educate for social change around these issues, looking to decolonize the art world. And for me, this is a really personal story. So I'm the granddaughter of the well-known artist Batchelor SHEMZA. I never got to meet my grandfather as he died before I was born, but I've always had a really deep connection with him through his artwork, and he's been my biggest artistic inspiration to date. As we mentioned in the video, my grandfather was a Pakistani painter who came over to London in the 50s to study at the Slade School of Art. And his art history lecturer at the Slade School of Art was the well-known Ernst Gombrich, who wrote The Story of Art, which was published in 1950. And this was a history of art from an entirely Western point of view. In one of his lectures, my grandfather was really dismayed to hear Ernst Gombrich dismiss all Islamic art, all his culture, as being purely functional. And he went home that evening and destroyed all of the work that he'd created in the UK so far. He decided to go back to basics and combine Western modernism with Eastern influences, or as he put it, one circle, one square, one problem, one life is not enough to solve it. So alongside my practice, I'm also the manager of the estate of my grandfather's work, and our aim is to provide a platform for the work of my grandfather, working alongside our galleries, Javeri, Contemporary and Hales. And as we've mentioned, there's been a rethinking of British art history, and migrant voices are getting kind of the recognition that they deserve. Now, these new advances in the art world and in the institutions haven't yet sort of filtered down into school curriculum. And I wanted to find a way to introduce my grandfather's work to the public and ask them to become actively involved in art making as a way to do this. I believe that now more than ever in our increasingly polarized society, it's really important that we champion these rich and diverse voices within British art history. In my own practice, I find ambitious ways to fuse methodologies from the past with new innovations to imagine what the role of art could be in the future. Until this project, I've previously worked mainly with traditional sculpting techniques and combined them with the latest technology to create my pieces. And I'm really a sculptor working with physical materials, light, wood, metal, and plastic. Due to the pandemic, as I'm sure was the case for many of us, my life and work has been turned upside down, and I was forced to adapt my practice to this new world that we find ourselves in. I looked for a way that I could take key aspects of my work, technology and interactivity, and create a project for the public to participate in whilst they were at home self-isolating. A couple of years ago, through Art in Flux, a community interest company founded by Olive Gingrich, Maria Almina and myself in 2016, I had the pleasure of meeting Stuart Batchelor, who came to speak at one of our social events. Since that first meeting, Stuart has exhibited his work with us and even designed a new workshop called Painting with Code that was held at the V&A Museum and the Royal College of Art when we did event 2 with the Computer Art Society and EVA London. I really admire his work and I was looking for a way to collaborate with him, and this was a perfect project for that. I'm now going to hand over to Stuart, who will tell you a bit more about his work and our project and how you can get involved.
Thank you, Aphra, and hello to everyone watching. Thank you, EVA, for having us again. My name is Stuart Faromarz, Batchelor, and I'm a media artist who combines traditional art and drawing with creative coding to create paintings that are more than just a surface. They're interactive applications, they're animated, they're audible, they're data-driven, and they're intermedial. At the core of my practice is this idea of what it means to create paintings in the 21st century. That is, paintings that take advantage of modern technologies. I explore this not just from a design and aesthetics perspective, but also how the form of paintings and audience participation changes when introduced to the world of software art. I've been fortunate enough to have produced several public-facing workshops as part of Art in Flux, where participants' drawings were transformed into virtual brushes that they then used to create works within a 3D application, bringing physicality and tangibility to the digital painting process. By creating digital drawing software, artists can encode their own rules into the systems, inviting users to discover new ways of drawing where real-world physics don't apply and aesthetics are encoded into the digital paintbrush. For SHEMZA.DIGITAL, Aphra and I wanted to let users to explore Anva's art world in an interactive way. One where users could create their own unique work that still sits somewhere within his aesthetics and theory, that allows for the users to collaborate with Anva to make something new. From examining Anva's prolific body of work, we set out to encode his iconic motifs into generative paint. We thought we'd start at the basics, a simple circle inside a square. And so this first paint became known as the Squircle. One of Anva's most popular and unique minimal visual elements, and in keeping with how he used it, the Squircle paint allows the users to create large fields of color that can be overlaid onto one another, creating new shapes within the intersections. For the second paint, Aphra and I noticed this knitted-like pattern across much of Anva's work, Perhaps the motif most directly influenced by his ancestry of carpet makers, these lattices of intersecting semicircles and squares are some of Anver's most detailed and complex works. The users can explore this complexity through the weave paint that overlays the lattice at different scales with each new stroke, creating webs of intricate and beautiful patterns. Our last paint developed emergently from the experiments. Exploring within the limitations of circles and squares, Aphra and I discovered the mosaic paint, a happy accident that could not have happened without Anver's aesthetics as direction. Like the weave, the mosaic adheres to a grid structure that overlays circular rings on one stroke and then squares on another. The mixing of these shapes can result in a minimal look or a complex one that has echoes of Anver's Islamic geometry influence. Despite being more indirectly inspired by Anver's work, fascinatingly, we still find echoes of similar motif within his art, as can be seen here from composition with number 6. Though users can explore these paints individually, the app allows for any combination of them. It is up to the user to create their vision within the tools we've given them, resulting in unanticipated artworks that remix Anver's ideas and allow users to collaborate with him. We can't wait to see what everyone will create with this. Participation is a key part of this collective artwork, and this is just the beginning. We already have had over 1,800 artworks submitted. We will be collecting everyone's contribution, which you can view, search, and explore anytime from our archive webpage. What is even more exciting is that from these hundreds of contributions, we will create a new interactive light installation next year, one that will be driven by all the artworks made so far and into the future. I'll now hand back to Aphra to talk more about the future of the project.
Thanks so much, Stuart. So SHEMZA.DIGITAL is a project of multiple forms. We have the digital painting application, which sits alongside an engagement strategy that invites the public to take part and increase the participation in the project. Through the use of social media, competitions, press campaigns, the creation of free teaching resources for students and teachers whilst the lockdown was happening and schools were closed, the project was able to reach a really large number of the British public so far. We've had clients such as the V&A Museum, Bournemouth University, the Festival of Curiosity and Norden Farm Arts Centre for our workshop programmes. One of our most successful engagement strategies has been for the project was the SHEMZA.DIGITAL competition, and it was held in February in 2021. The competition had over 700 submissions, and out of those 700, 9 winners were selected to have their artworks combined into 2 collaborative digital artworks. One was a moving image work and the other was a 3D animation that you can see a still of here. The 3D animation was created for Art in Flux Reclaimed, which was an online exhibition that was launched at the National Gallery on the 30th of March this year. And this was a wonderful opportunity for the public to have their work exhibited alongside some of the most radical media artists working today. By inviting the public to become equal participants in the creation process, SHEMZA.DIGITAL is groundbreaking in showing that participatory and community artwork can be shown in a professional media art context, and it reclaims this once elite art and technology world for the public, making art accessible for everybody. From the outset, our main focus was to engage as many people as possible and make the project as accessible as possible. And we did this by user testing and making the app work across all platforms, mobile, tablets, and browsers. Because of our testing and focus on engagement, the audience interacted with the artwork and its context in the way that we had hoped. From their feedback survey, we can see that people from as young as 3 years to 88 years had participated in the project, and 98% of them had a good quality experience. It was also apparent from the feedback that not only did people enjoy themselves, but they also engaged with the idea of decolonizing the art world and the work of Anver Shemza, which was brilliant. So we've actually just today, SHEMZA.DIGITAL has actually opened at the other art fair as a virtual art fair booth And Stuart will drop the link into the chat there if you want to go and check it out. This is a still from the booth. We have our digital painting application, which you can go and create your own paintings in. We have the 3D sculpture, a film, and some of Anva's works as well. So do check that out. And our SHEMZA.DIGITAL project has really only just begun. I found out last week that I've been awarded a second grant by the Arts Council England to continue the development of this project. And over the next few months, I'll be engaging the community into co-creation workshops where we will design the installation together rather than it being artist led by myself. And I think that will be a really interesting way to take this project further. So you can go onto our website and create your own digital paintings and sign up to our mailing list on there as well if you want to be kept up to date with the project. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Stuart and Aphra. Fascinating to see how far it's come since some of the very early ideas that were kicking around just a few 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever. And very exciting to see so many people are engaging with it. And